These mountains aren't just a backdrop, they're home. And your business is the heartbeat that keeps these communities moving. At Chris Slone Media, we bring over 3 decades of broadcast excellence to your doorstep. High-quality audio and video designed to tell your story and show our neighbors the true value of what you do. I'm Chris Slone with Chris Slone Media. Appalachian Roots, professional results. Follow us on Facebook at Chris Slone Media or call or text 606-331-0029.
Serving the Appalachian region with high-quality video and audio for television, radio, and social media. This is Chris Slone Media.
The Gatherings. True crime meets the paranormal. A YouTube exclusive.
I think he's tried to cover up for his son. I believe his son brutally murdered Amber by stabbing her 11 times in the head and the face and the neck, and he covered it all up.
The case of Amber Spradlin, which has deeply affected Floyd County as well as several other counties, has seen as another significant delay in court proceedings because of an unexpected development with the judiciary system. Here are the latest details as of this morning. A critical pretrial hearing was originally scheduled for Friday, April 3rd, but it was abruptly delayed after Special Judge Eddie Coleman suffered a fall that resulted in a serious injury requiring surgery. The courts rescheduled the hearing for April 23rd this year at 10 a.m. in Pike Circuit Court. M.K. McKinney III remains charged with the murder of Amber Spradlin, while Dr. Michael McKinney II, his father, and Josh Mullins are charged with multiple counts of tampering with physical evidence. Now, as for the DNA and other evidence, recent filings by Commonwealth's attorney Brent Turner have highlighted that the state crime lab is still processing 2 large batches of evidence. This includes testing for blood on clothing and surfaces within the McKinney home, as well as the identification of human hairs that were found at the scene. Now, there is a little bit of uncertainty for the trial date. While the trial was initially targeted for late 2025 and early this year, the ongoing forensic testing and recent judicial delays have kept a firm date in flux. The defense has consistently pushed for a speedy trial, while the prosecution argues that moving forward before DNA testing is finalized could result in a terrible injustice.
Happy to see that she's getting some justice and that these people aren't going to get away with what they did to her. She loved life and she loved living, and she didn't deserve what they did to her.
And now we go to Letcher County, Kentucky. A new affidavit has been filed just over a week ago, specifically April 1st, when Stein's attorneys filed a formal affidavit requesting a special judge to replace Judge Christopher Coren. Now, the allegations of bias are that Stein's legal team is arguing that Judge Coren cannot be impartial because he was a colleague of Judge Kevin Mullins. They specifically point to a video from a Kentucky Judicial Commission meeting on mental health that was held only a week before the shooting. Now, it shows Coren and Mullins sitting together and talking. Now, this is not the first time it's come before Coren. You see, this is after a ruling in March of this year when Judge Coren denied a previous motion for his recusal stating that their relationship was purely professional and did not cloud his judgment. Now, the defense strategy here is pretty simple. It's insanity and mental health. Number one, there's a lack of capacity, they're arguing. And they say that Stein's defense is pursuing an insanity defense, arguing that he lacked the capacity to form the intent to kill during the shooting. Then there's the death penalty fight. In February of this year, his attorneys requested a hearing to determine if Steins suffers from a serious mental illness, and if proven that he does, well, it could legally preclude the prosecution from seeking the death penalty under Kentucky law. Then there's the unsealing of the KCPC report. Well, the defense is also fighting to unseal a mental health evaluation from the Kentucky Correctional Psychiatric Center, or KCPC, in which they claim this contains findings that conflict with the professional image of the victim. Then there is also a personal liability civil lawsuit which was filed by Judge Mullins' widow, Kimberly Mullins, and it's moving forward. In January of this year, a judge narrowed the scope of this suit, dismissing negligence claims against Steins in his official capacity, but he's allowing the case to proceed regarding his individual and intentional acts. And of course, there's some warning signs here. The civil complaint alleges that Steins exhibited unusual, paranoid, or psychotic behavior leading up to the shooting and seeks to hold both Steins and specific sheriff's office employees liable for failing to prevent the tragedy.
The other side.
And we hope that you guys are having a good evening. Thanks a lot for being here with us. It is Thursday the 9th. For some reason, I'm wanting to say the 12th, but it's right around this time of year, and it's just for the buffs out there. And I think most people are kind of interested and fascinated by the story of the RMS Titanic. It was on this day in 1912 that the Titanic was getting ready to set sail with over 2,200 souls on board, and just over 700 would actually make it into the port of New York after a whole lot of arrogance, hubris, and dumbassery took place, in which they were banging along through an ice field at about 22 and a half knots. And if you're not familiar with knottage, 22 and a half knots comes out to about 25 miles an hour, which today, and I don't know this for a fact, but I've watched a lot of stuff on it, documentaries. That's fast for even today's cruise ships, the great big boats, the great big ships. But out of that disaster, there was some good things come. Number one, I don't think that many people out there no longer are in the frame of mind that we can just go along and take on nature. And I don't think anybody in their right mind will ever again say God himself could not sink this ship.
Mhm.
As soon as that happened, that was friggin' stupid from the start. But anyways, I don't know how they got these things set up now, but it's fine. It's hard for me to believe that they got them set up in first class and second. Listen, I was watching this documentary on it. As a matter of fact, last night, I've been falling asleep to these things, but they were talking about how, now listen to this, first and second class in 1912 in Southampton, you could just get on the ship. Third class, you were delayed because you had to go through a health inspection too, because they thought, well, because you don't have enough money, you're filthy. And that was not a White Star thing. That was the rules and regulations of the time. I think they've gotten rid of that now, I think. And don't get me wrong, yeah, there's various ticket prices, and I'm with that. I get that. You get certain things for certain money. And I get that. Now, the one good thing I could say about White Star was they were really good about feeding everybody on board. Didn't matter first, second, third class. Now, of course, if you were first or second class, you had a lot. I mean, it was nothing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for you to have up to 10 different courses of meals. Third class is a little different, but they fed you well regardless, and they were so smart in doing this. They put out these little postcards on the dinner tables, and on one side of it, it'd have the Titanic's menu, and right beside of that, note for script or room for script that you could say, "Hey, I'm on the RMS Titanic, and they feed us really good here." And then you'd flip the card over and have a picture of the ship, which I thought was, yeah, whatever. But when she struck the iceberg, it took them what, 1909 to 1912, took them a few years to build this ship, and it took it 2.5 hours to sink to the bottom of the Atlantic. But anyway, you guys can check this stuff out on YouTube, and I think Disney's got a thing on it too under Nat Geo. They had actually gone down and they did this awesome 3D scan, and it took them days just to scan it and then years to put it all together. But there is no more clearer imaging now of what the ship actually looks like on the bottom of the ocean laying there. And she's about 2.5 miles down. Um, and I don't know if there's a person that's been to it more than James Cameron. I'd like to know who it is because he is a Titanic. He is an enthusiast, but it's like he said, when Robert Ballard first found the wreck in September of 1985, September 1st, 1985, at 2 o'clock in the morning, oddly, which is when she sank. She sank April 15th at 2 a.m. Actually, 2:20 a.m. is when she slipped under the bottom or under the surface. Um, but they found this thing at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on September 1st, 1985. And they were all going crazy because they'd found the boiler, and Ballard had enough theory about this to realize if we find the trail will lead us to the ship. The trail of the debris and stuff that was left over. And sure enough, that's what happened. But he said all of a sudden it just went deathly quiet because they saw a pair of shoes, and then right beside of it, a pair of children's shoes. What they found there was the remains of the bodies. Now, the bodies were long since gone because at that depth, but all that was left were the shoes, because the shoes were what? They were made out of leather, and leather has a tendency to hold up pretty well in that kind of environment. But he said the reason that he didn't think that these were out of a suitcase because they were tied. The shoes were tied. As a matter of fact, now they had they had grave sites, and I think it was Halifax, of some of the people who passed on the Titanic, or who died as a result of, not having enough lifeboats. But, and it was not necessarily, in most cases, it wasn't drowning, it was hypothermia. The water was 28 degrees. You ever stuck your hand in a glass of ice water? That's pretty much what you're getting. Now imagine being submerged in it. But anyways, there was a child, and they've still got the marker there. It says for the unknown children of Titanic, because the Mackie Bennett went out in, let's see, April, May. I think it was May of 1912, and recovered close to 200 bodies, if I'm not mistaken. Don't hold me to that. But they recovered a lot of the bodies. And then, of course, they buried them. And some people that could afford it, like J.J. Astor, his family, of course, he was the richest man on the ship. They paid to have his body brought back to America, and then, services. But people that couldn't afford it, they had to pretty much bury them where they were at. And this child had a grave. Now, they since found out through DNA testing who the child actually was, and they put a foot marker at the bottom of the grave indicating that this was the person. But they left the big headstone up in honor of all of the children of the Titanic who could not be named. But, you get into this time of year, and of course, my mind instantly goes there. And so I was thinking, if you wanted, Stace, maybe you could call out to anybody who was on there tonight and let them know that they
I have a soft spot for that anyway.
It was a tragedy, and it was, the ship sinking, that sucked. That was horrible. But the true story of the Titanic isn't the ship, it's the people, I think. And I was watching these things, James Cameron's The Making of, etc. because really he said he thought when this thing went into theaters, he said, "There's no way in hell we're going to even break even, let alone make money." He wasn't expecting that because it went so far over, but it was one of the most expensive productions ever done in Hollywood. I mean, they built the Titanic up to a certain size of the actual ship, and I mean, it was they built one size of it pretty close. And of course, they actually created a studio, and I think it was Mexico or New Mexico, that actually could accommodate all this and the water that it would take to lift the ship, sink the ship, and make it as realistic as possible. If anybody could do it, I'd put money on James Cameron because
Mhm.
of the things that he had done before. It didn't surprise me, and I just knew when this came out, I thought, "Man, this is gonna be awesome."
Oh, it took my breath.
It did. When I first saw it, I was like, especially in that
Thought
transition
about it for weeks.
where she goes from the bottom of the ocean and it's right back, it takes you back to 1912, and the ship was gorgeous. But it's like Cameron said, and I believe this. Yes, and I do study him quite a lot, getting into doing some of the stuff that we're doing with making some of these films. He said you had to appreciate the ship before you could appreciate the sinking. And he was right. You had to look at her and say, "Gosh, she really was beautiful." And that it was a beautiful ship. It really was. But he borrowed from different stories and different locations and survivors' stories and family members of people who died on the ship. And that is how he came up with Jack and Rose. Of course, they were both fictional characters, but they represented a couple of things. Number one, they represented, Rose, of course, represented the first class. Jack represented the third class, but yet they fell in love together, and it was a love story. It's like he said, Romeo and Juliet on that thing. Um, but that represents that money shouldn't have anything to do with love.
Uh,
And it represents, that we're all human beings and, that we can all come together. I mean, there's just so many representations there. And, he did write the script. And 20th Century Fox right there towards the end they were getting a little antsy. They were getting a little nervous. And that's why Paramount came in and they injected like 650 some $1 million into it in order for a piece, to get a piece of the pie too, I'm sure. And that's business. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that because the story got told. And, we learned things about, and I think they were relatively accurate for the most part. He did take some creative liberties with William Murdoch. I think Murdoch was a whole lot more of a hero than the movie depicted him to be. He did not shoot himself like in the movie, but according to Charles Lightoller and so many other people, he was swept off the decks by the water and he was never seen again. Smith did go down with the ship. Lightoller did survive. And you had all these people, and what was his name? Not JJ, but Bruce Ismay did get into a lifeboat and saved his own ass. He was the owner of the Titanic. He was the president of the White Star Line, effectively owning the Titanic, and he saved his own ass. He jumped in a lifeboat and got away from there. But yeah, he never. 6 months after the sinking, he resigned, and he never lived that down. Yeah, I mean, it was a few years later he had died, I think, in Florida, of natural causes, so they say. But he had never lived that down. People looked at him as a coward. They looked at, his one seat could have been a seat for another man, woman, or child. And of course, there was a big to do there about, when Captain Smith had said, yes, women and children first. There for a while, Lightoller was letting women and children only, but Charles Murdoch was putting women, children, and if there were none of, no women and children available right then, he'd put a guy in the boat. He'd put two guys in the boat. He'd do whatever he could to saving lives, and that's how Murdoch died, was trying to save lives. So, he did not put a gun to his head. There were guns discharged and fired, but they were pretty much into the air just trying to keep people scared, enough to keep them back, so they could get what they thought and what they felt was right, which was women and children first into the boats. But they did change that law. Titanic had, I forget how many gross tons. It was like 65,000 or something. But at the time, the Board of Trade only required 16 lifeboats. Well, she had 16 lifeboats and then 4 collapsibles, a total of 20 boats. So she easily exceeded the law for that time. But now there's laws out there that says there has to be enough lifeboats on board for everybody, or the damn ship doesn't sail. Period. And now there are, you see like these. I forget the names of some of these things. I watched the documentary on one being made, and it was like 300 feet longer than the Titanic, and it was wider, and it had like, multiple decks. It had shopping malls in it, water parks, and all this. And I'm sitting there thinking, that is one hell of a boat. And I forget the name of her now. My God, I cannot believe that. But that's not uncommon for these large cruise ships today, but they all do have enough boats. Now, I don't know if you'd heard this or not, but Titanic 2 is nearly ready to sail. An Australian billionaire financed it. And it looks very much like the original Titanic, only modern navigation, et cetera, more than enough lifeboats on board for everybody. And it too has a swimming pool, and it's got all this different stuff in it. But the inside almost is an exact replica of the beautiful staterooms. It has a modern day gymnasium in it, because some of the stuff the Titanic had on, I'm like, that ain't no damn gymnasium, not like I've ever been in. But the new one will have a much more modern one with some free weights, machines, etc., treadmills, etc. And it's just going to be remarkable. And guess what route she's taking? Southampton to New York, right through where they went before. Only there, he said there's no way in hell we're going to be banging along at 22.5 knots through an ice field. But it's going to have a lot more safety features on it, including modern radar and sonar and stuff like that. And but the wheelhouse is going to be set up just like the old one. But the actual bridge behind the wheelhouse is going to have all these computers and radar and sonar and all this stuff to make sure that they don't have any bumps in the middle of the night with an iceberg at 20 minutes until midnight. So anyways, I was kind of thinking if you wanted to reach out tonight, yeah, because I mean, just to let them know that they are thought of, and it's not just by us, it's by, I think, the world over. And this time of year also, I know it's getting to be warm weather, because I'm drinking this stuff by the gallon. Lemonade. I love this stuff. I love Bristol. The only Pepsi product I like, but I love Bristol lemonade. I am very much a Coca-Cola guy, and just about anybody that knows anything about me knows that on software. That is super cool. Oh my gosh. Where is that yours, or is that Titanic?
This was mine.
Oh,
It's funny that you mentioned that today. I'm a big fan.
okay. Another piece of trivia too. Now that Stacey's holding her up, I love that. I think it's beautiful. Wait a minute.
It's so heavy too. I got it at the museum
I did
in
too.
Gatlinburg.
I did too. I got this at the museum in Gatlinburg.
Yep.
Of course, unfortunately, right now at the moment, she is sitting at the bottom of the water, as you can see, with that damned iceberg, always screwing with people. But the fourth funnel on her was fake. She was not used. They only need, the ship had 3 engines. It had 2 reciprocating and then a steam turbine. But the fourth funnel was actually used as ventilation for like the kitchen and some of the ventilation for all of that. So Icon of the Seas, that was a good one. Never got tired of watching it, Shell said. She said, but I think the saddest part is how the tragedy could have been prevented. Yeah,
Exactly.
had it not been for arrogant foolishness. Yes.
That's right.
You remember this thing, Jonathan Hyde played J. Bruce Ismay. And when Thomas Andrews looks at him, he said, she'll go one right after the other. The water will spill over the bulkheads. And she was designed to stay afloat with any first 4 of the compartments flooded. She could have stayed afloat.
Yeah.
But it damaged 5 or 6. And that was enough. 5 would have done her in. And I think it was 5 or 6 that she actually damaged. But J. Bruce Ismay, he said, this ship can't sink. And Thomas Andrews looked at her, he said, she's made of iron, sir. I assure you she can. And she will. And that's when, E.J. Smith said, how long? He said, an hour, 2 at most. and it was 2 hours and 20 minutes that the ship went, slid under the sea. It was done. And that really does not stick to, um, the Uberus. The ship, I think they started, they had the idea for it in 1905 or 6, and they actually started building it in 1909, and she launched out of dry dock. I believe it was it was around March, April 1912. And then, of course, they had to fit it out with all the luxury stuff and all the things that any ship would need, including putting the funnels into place and all this other stuff. But she was an absolutely beautiful ship. I mean, she was gorgeous. And to this day, there's something still about seeing her that captivates people.
Me too. I mean, when I went to that museum, it was all I could do to even talk.
It was I went to it. Brenda and I had went to it, and we were just like, oh my God. And they actually let us stick his hand in the water.
I did too.
It was in the 28 degrees Fahrenheit, and I was like, oh, I couldn't keep my hand in it for much more than 5 or 6 seconds. And I was like, oh my God. And then I got of course, when you go in, you get this like little postcard kind of thing, and you are a person on the Titanic, and you find out at the end of your tour whether or not you lived. I did not. And I said that.
I did.
Which really is funny, because a friend of mine who is gifted similar to you, she told me in a previous life, I was on the Titanic. I was actually one of the officers that died with the ship that went down with it. And because she was asking, she said, are you afraid of water? I said, no. She said, are you afraid of the ocean? I said, I love the ocean. I think it's one of the most beautiful things that, on this earth that God's created. It was incredible. I said, there's all kinds of cool little fishies and little dolphins. And I said, of course, there's the sharkies, but, we stay away from the sharkies. I said, but no, I said, I love the ocean. I think it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And she said, I'm telling you, she said, I'm getting you were on the Titanic in a previous life. I said, maybe I was. I said, but I just don't have any fears of that kind of thing. I said, now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I said,
I do.
See, I'd probably piss myself if I was on a ship and it started to go down like that. But I also know that, lifeboat drills are mandatory on cruises today. And they've got enough lifeboats on board for everybody. And hopefully we wouldn't be in the middle of the cold North Atlantic Ocean doing, trying to cross through an ice field at 25 miles an hour. But I think that Chelsea is exactly right. It is one of the big disasters that
it is.
There was arrogance and hubris and this feeling of invincibility that we could take on Mother Nature. And I've been told by 2 or 3 people, different stories, but some people say it was a crew member. Some people say it was a passenger. Some people said that it was Bruce Ismay that said God himself could not sink this ship. I don't think it was Ismay that said that. I think it was a crew member, because he was talking to a woman, and a woman said, are you sure this boat cannot sink? And he said, ma'am, God himself could not sink this ship. Right then I'd have said, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I'll wait for the Britannic to come out. Of course, the Britannic came out just a year or 2 later, and she was sank by striking a mine in World War I, or by maybe a German U-boat. It was one or the other, either torpedoed by a German U-boat or she struck a mine. But whereas on Titanic, 1,570 some people died, on the Britannic, 30 people lost their lives, and they was able to get, because at that time, there was enough lifeboats for everybody, because the Titanic had came along and this had happened. And to be quite honest with you, the world was outraged, and I think that a lot of people still are. 16 years later, I think that they are. I think that's what happened. But to this day, when I found out, gosh, I guess that was in 1996, when I heard Cameron was making the movie, I thought this is going to be freaking epic. I just knew it. Because, I saw Jim Cameron's Terminator, of course, like so many other people. And I saw so much of the work he had done. And the guy is, they say he's an asshole to work for, to take direction. I don't think he knows that. If you're on the same page or trying to get on the same page with him, I think you're fine. and I think he's going to work with you. He'll get you there. Um, I don't think anybody said that necessarily about me yet, but give it time because I know what I want to see, and I've got these visions in my head. Like where the darkest stories are concerned, we just turned loose the anthology, and that thing is already kind of exceeded. We turned loose a little 30-second bumper trailer for the gatherings, and in a matter of a day, it had 500 views. So, we're starting to get a reputation for that, and I want to keep that reputation. And how do we keep that reputation? Well, to me, it's pretty simple. Try to give you guys something that you want to see. And that's why we're not going to be rushing through on Mamie Thurman. I'm trying to get a budget together for it and get actors and actresses in the role to play this movie because it's kind of a period piece. I mean, a lot of it takes place it all takes place between 1900 and 1932. She was born in September of 1900 and she died in June of 1932. She was murdered. And going back to Logan, West Virginia, at a time when coal was king, there was as much money at that time going through Logan, West Virginia as there is Wall Street because Logan was a huge part of West Virginia that produced a lot of coal and timber. And back then, those were big things. They're still big things today. Everybody talks about, well, we should just do electric cars and we should just do electric, and this and that and the other. Where the hell do you think the electricity comes from? We do not have the technology at this moment to harness it, solar power. I think that these are noble ambitions, but right now, let's face it, coal is vital to everyone's way of life. If you want electricity, if not, then you can sit in the dark and go hungry because that's pretty much what you're looking at. Because the electricity runs the refrigerators. Coal is important. And the people that mine the coal, to me, those are some brave people. And the people that drive them back and forth in the trucks, and on the coal rails and what have you. That's how we get electricity. And look, I am from a coal producing region and I love coal. And I think I've got a lot of buddies that are coal miners. There are fewer now than they were, but you can thank the government for doing that. It's like putting a cart in front of the damn horse. So, anyways, with those things being said, we are going to approach this. There's only one person I've really talked to it about, and she's in the chat tonight, and it's Chelsea. And I've told her how I'm looking to approach this, and it's not just going to be everything I've found about Mamie Thurman or 22 Mine Road on YouTube was, oh, the ghost, oh, the ghost, oh, the ghost.
Yeah.
We're going to go deeper than that. What was she before she was a ghost? She was a human being. She was a person. We're going to take a look at who she was.
She's beautiful.
Oh my God, she was gorgeous. And maybe why she was the way she was. But let's keep in mind also, this is not going to be a condemnation. This is going to be something that we hope will provide an explanation. Because I do not think she was happy in her marriage. That's by all accounts. But I don't think that she was out doing that just because that she just wanted sex and that was it. Yeah, everybody loves that kind of thing because it's good. But there's more than that behind it. Everybody wants to feel wanted. Everybody wants to feel important. Everybody wants to feel needed by at least someone. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why would she have been this way or this way? And there's one theory that I keep coming up with that would explain almost everything. But we're going to save that for the film. But the script is almost nearly written, and there may be a few faces that you guys know that appear in the movie. Because I've got some people in mind already that could play not only her role, but the role of, some of her friends. And some of her friends, I've not been able to get that deep into research yet, especially during her high school years. But Stacia and I have talked about this, maybe Des playing one of those roles of Sarah, who in high school is one of Mamie's friends, and she's kind of like a confidant. And she tells Sarah about the thing about these things that are going on in her life that really do shape her. Because let's face it, when you're a child, on up to the time you're in high school, etc., you are being shaped and molded by your experiences and by the people that love and care about you or are supposed to love and care about you. That's very much a big part of your childhood and a big part of molding you into an adult. And this is really about Mamie's life. It's not, how she died. What we're going to do is talk about and show you maybe, and largely based in fact, how she lived. So I think that that's going to be something that's really worth watching. And um, who knows? It may even make an appearance at a cinema in Logan, West Virginia, because I know that a while back they had talked about doing it, but well, everybody's that. Yeah, everybody knows how she died. Everybody knows that there is supposed to be her restless ghost wandering 22 Mine Road. I've yet to find something on how she lived, though. I mean, outside of the same stuff that's been regurgitated over and over that everybody knows about. I want to talk about her life. I want us to do something that explores who she was as a human being and what it took to put her there. She was very young when she was murdered. She was 32 years old. She was a baby. And that's how we're going to approach a lot of these. And I quote, an Appalachian story. Yeah, including April Pennington, including Amber, including, and here's the thing, great thing about April and Amber is I do have, and I'm very close with family members. I'm close with Sharon, and I'm close with Debbie, and I'm close with Missy. And we can really get an inside look and hopefully pay respect and a lot of justice to April, to Amber, and to other people. And there's other people there too that we're going to, do these things on, but it does take time and it takes money.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to ask anybody to stand in front of a camera without offering them something. Now, if it was me, I wouldn't give a shit. I'll do it. But it's kind of mine. So, we're trying to get up some what I call producing or production funding to pay for these things and get the right kind of equipment in place. But I really think that if God wants us to do this, it'll happen. Because if He's got something for you, ain't nobody gonna stand in its way. Anyways, I am done jabber jawing, my dear, and I'm sorry I took so long with this.
No problem.
So let's go ahead and let's do your SBS, and maybe we can start out by asking, that we're coming up on,
Yeah,
April.
I'm
Yeah.
not home, so I don't have my speakers on. So let me know if you guys can hear everything okay.
Okay, April 15th, which is when the Titanic sank, is actually almost a week from today. It's next Wednesday. So, this whole week right up until Wednesday the 15th, I would say for me it's Titanic week. And I do hear it going off in the background. I hear your speakers. So dear, if you want to go ahead and get started, I'm all for it. I am here and I am all yours.
Does anybody wants to come through? I know you've heard Chris. If anybody from the Titanic wants to come through and talk to us, it's open. It's all yours.
And don't be shy, please.
I couldn't swim. She swam.
And water that cold though.
If you can hear us, we can hear you if you can come through for us. Anyone on the Titanic, we're calling out to you. We would love to hear from you. And also, it's always open if anybody wants to come through for anybody that's in the chat room as well. Do you have any messages for anybody? Yep. Fight.
I'm too old to fight. I just pull out a gun.
Can you imagine the chaos of sitting there watching everybody dying around you and knowing that you're going to be next. Just hoping on any kind of hope that you can
Well,
float
that's
on
what makes it
something.
sick, and, that night on the ship, there were so many heroes, and there was a lot of cowards too.
Absolutely.
And I think Billy Zane as Cal Hockley did a wonderful job of
He
portraying
did.
when he picked up that poor little third-class baby girl who was so beautiful, and here he is, the big, rich, snotty puke, and
Yeah.
he gets on there, and he's like, "Please let me on. She's all or I'm all she has." He didn't even know that little girl. But,
No.
you also and again, money has nothing to do
Desperate
with these.
times.
Um,
Bridget.
Bridget, Isidore and Ida Strauss, he got Ida on a lifeboat. And when she found out her husband couldn't get on, she got back off and onto the Titanic. She said, "Where you go, I go. We've lived together. We'll die together." Those two were heroes because Isidore Strauss, the founder of Macy's department store, would not get on a boat as long as there was women and children on the Titanic. He said no. The man was a hero.
What a hero.
JJ Astor, same way. He got Madeline, his young wife of 18. He was about my age. He was about 54. But hey, God bless him, whatever. She was over the age of majority. So, but he got her on a boat, and he was going to try to get on. And he said, "Can I get on? She's in a delicate condition." She was knocked up. She was pregnant. But the officer putting people on a boat said, "No, not right now." He said, "We got women and children." And he said he understood and he stood back. And then you had Benjamin Guggenheim who said, "We're dressed in our best and we're prepared to go down as gentlemen, but we would like a brandy." God bless you, Benjamin Guggenheim. I'd have said the same thing. I said, "Keep the liquor coming until the water's above deck." I said, "Keep bringing that shit in here because I'm going to drink everything in sight." If I'm going down, I'm sorry, but I'm going down with liquor on my breath. He dealt with it.
I don't know if I could have dealt with it or not. I really don't. I really can't.
Give me enough liquor and I wouldn't have gave a damn.
Man.
Like, well, but the baker, the ship's baker, and I'm sorry, I do not mean to do disrespect or injustice. I think his name was Charles, but he jumped into the water. He never even got his head wet because as the bow or the stern of the ship went down, he literally stepped off the stern into the water, never even got his head wet. And he said he had drank so much whiskey and bourbon, he didn't even get frostbite. His blood was running. I mean, he was soused. And when they pulled him into the lifeboat, he was soused. And they said, "You okay?" He said, "Oh, I'm bloody fine." He said, "But we need to see if we can get more people out of the water." But that's how he survived. He was so soused that did he get cold? Yeah, I'm sure he got cold, but I mean, his blood was so thin from the liquor that it just kept, it circulated. It was, everybody else's was like that and slowing. His was still going like that. He kept going, but that's how he survived. And that's even doctors aboard the Carpathia said, "This guy's a damn drunk. He really didn't give a shit." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, that would have been me." I said, yeah. Because let me tell you, anybody that knew me back right after mom and dad died knew I was putting away. Hell, it was nothing for me to put away 12, 13, 14 Coronas and a half a fifth in a night. It was nothing. Did I know where I was at? Not really. But I really didn't care. Alcohol does that to you. Or it does me.
Heartbreak does too.
Yeah. Well, it was a hard hit. Blues, but I'm not the only one that's ever been through it. And I certainly wasn't the first, and I certainly won't be the last. So, but I have learned that there's other ways to deal with things like leaning on people you love. And I have a lot of respect. I know somebody very close to me went through a loss recently. We all went through that loss recently with her. And she turned to you, she turned to me, she turned to her kids, the people in her family that she loves. And let me tell you something. I had a breakdown missing her today. Missing her mom today. It's going to happen for the rest of my life. That's just the way it is. When you love somebody, you love them, and they don't have to be right here with you in the physical to love them. I messaged her today. Love does not know what death is, and it could care less about death. Love transcends death.
That's true.
I like your little design down there, by the way, on the bottom where your name is at. That's pretty neat.
I can't see it.
Oh, it looks good though. It's kind of like a Christmas gift wrapping kind of thing. So you're my present.
Oh, I like it. I
Yeah,
see it now that you said that.
it's neat.
Where I'm on the phone, it's so different from the being at home on the computer.
Well, I'm just glad that you were able to get on.
I can't see the chat room, by the way, guys. So I love you all. Hello to everybody.
Well, I'll do some chat reading.
Yeah.
Carla is asking if Steven can come through.
Oh, Steven, come through for Carla tonight. Y'all ready to turn this back on or back up?
Angie said if I got enough liquor in me, I could have backstroked through the North Atlantic like Popeye. Damn Skippy. You know, like my daddy used to tell me, he said, son, if brains were gasoline, I don't think you could do 2 laps around a Cheerio and a piss ants go-kart. So,
He always had the best comebacks.
he really did. Dad was just, wow. So yeah, Crystal said it's about Mamie's life.
Yeah.
That particular film will be. And yes, it's about her from you know, I mean, there's really not a lot to tell with her mom because her mom died when she was just 4 months old. And her dad died a few years later, but I don't know if that kind of relationship was kind of rough. But yeah, guys, I mean, I'm reading the chats tonight, and Lloyd is watching at home, so I want to give him kudos. I saw him in the chat earlier, so thanks, Lloyd, for being.
He's probably asleep by now.
Well, he may be. I don't know. He seemed to be missing you awful bad. So, let's see. Yeah, Shell said that she and Robin had watched it over 30 times and literally never got tired of watching it. I don't either, Chelsea. I mean, I can watch that movie to this day, and it seems like I always pick up on something new that I've missed before or that I've maybe forgotten
I
about.
can't stand to watch it. I can't do it.
Well, I am one of those people who love the behind the scenes stuff for obvious reasons, but I learned so much from them. And, you know, one of the big things I've learned from Cameron just by watching those behind the scenes stuff is, you know, that they had this one particular thing called Cameron versus the Impossible, because everybody said, you know, it's going to be impossible to do what you're talking about doing, you know, with Titanic.
He's there.
And he just smiled. He said, watch me. And he did at a cost of, I think it's $200 million or a little over, but he did it. And you guys call me crazy, but if I've got the budget, I can make it happen because I can work with people. I'm not saying I can make it happen alone. Absolutely not. I would need people, but I need people right now. And I'm really fortunate to have people like Stace, people like Crystal, people who believe in what we're doing, and people, you know, Chris is really great. Crystal is really great for this. She's like, I may not know it, she said, but I'll figure it out if it hair lips the Pope.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. And she does. You guys have seen it. Look at episode 5 and some of episode 4, you know, Teddy. And then episode 5, Reagan. A lot of that was Crystal not quitting, not saying, well, I just can't figure this out. No, she goes and goes and goes until she gets what she's after. And that's the kind of people we need. Let's see here. Yeah, Lloyd says, I'm here. So Lloyd is watching and he is home. And I wanted to give him that acknowledgement. Get your grill skill ready, Lloyd, because I think that Stace and I are planning on getting together this weekend or maybe next week or something. And no, wait, you said pot roast.
Pot roast.
Pot roast is awesome. With taters and carrots. Whew, that's good eating right there. And get Lloyd to make some of them bread cake things that he makes. Them cornbread fritters or whatever.
Yeah, them's good. Nothing better than cornbread fried up.
Oh boy, that's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're asking for anybody tonight on the box. Oh, there it is. If you're from the RMS Titanic and you died as a result of that, or maybe you survived because Milvina Dean was the last person who survived it. She was only 3 months old when the ship went down, and she just passed away a few years ago. So anybody can come through for there. Or, you know, if you've got somebody, you're in the chat room, just type it in there. And, you know, I'll be happy to pass it along to Stace, and Stace can call out for them. Just remember, if you want to hear from them, think of them. Think of the good stuff. Think of the funny stuff. So, you know, we're hoping that we can hear from Steven to come through for Carla. and maybe Angie's son to come through for her.
Absolutely.
And April, I'd love to hear from you. Summer, I'd love to hear from you. Summer Wells. Crystal said she's like the Energizer Bunny. She just keeps going. she ain't going to stop until she gets what she wanted. But I thought her rendition of the little girl and her mother was absolutely wonderful in Reagan. I thought it was great. Angie asked if she could say hi to Bubba.
Bubba, can you come through for your mama tonight?
Tell him his brother was in his room tonight.
And you know that your brother was in your room tonight. He misses you.
Candace is asking for Aunt Judy to come.
Yeah.
Her Aunt Judy.
Now, Judy, could you come through for Candace? I heard a female voice said, "I'm here." I don't know whose voice that was. Can you tell me who you are? A kiss. Can anyone from the Titanic come through? What's your name?
Will Murdoch, could you come through? You were the first officer aboard Titanic, first or second. I always get him and Latoller mixed up. But he died saving people's lives.
Right. You all are heroes. He said cold.
That's a very distinct, deep voice. That could be Will.
Can you tell me what your name is to the male that keeps coming through with the deep voice? We'd love to hear what your name is. Hi. They may keep hearing help.
I'm sorry, do what?
Keep hearing help over and over again by male voice. Help.
They say the only sound that was worse than all the screaming of the people that were in the water was when the screaming stopped.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that everybody had to go through that.
The majority of them didn't drown. The majority of them froze to death.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothermia. And at that temperature, hypothermia is going to kick in pretty quick.
She stood there. What floor was your room on?
What deck?
What deck? Can you tell us? Were you on the ship when it went down? I was.
Were you at the bow or the stern? Because the ship broke in half. We now know that. Broke apart at one of the expansion joints.
One said bed, in the bed, and one said something floor.
Thomas Andrews, if you're there, I'd love to hear from you. Well, Thomas was the man who was the chief designer and architect of the ship. And
Somebody said Westmoreland.
Westmoreland? God, that name sounds familiar. I mean, it's like ringing bells big time.
It said Westmoreland, plain as day.
That sounds so familiar.
Some of these voices coming through really sounds,
British?
yeah.
Well, you had a melting pot of all kinds of different cultures and ethnicities on there. They were from Ireland, Finland. There were Swedes. There were all kinds of people, different races, different religions, all kinds of people were on the ship.
John Jacob Astor.
The wealthiest man on board Titanic at the time of her sinking. Yep. He went by JJ Astor.
You came through, JJ? I saw your cufflinks at the museum.
Mm-hmm. Even by today's standards, those were pretty awesome. Yeah.
Did you have your cufflinks on? I remember going to the museum and seeing her dresses. Madeline's.
Mm-hmm.
I took so many pictures of those. It's
But
crazy.
her life was pure raw hell after that ship sank. I mean, she went through it, man. Some of it she brought on herself, but I mean, it's still, that's not the life she had envisioned, I'm sure.
Mm-mm. I can't imagine it. Do you have any messages for any of your loved ones? I know that most of them are probably with you by now. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I wish you could read the comment Charlie put in there. Good Lord. That was a Louis Abernathy comment if I've ever seen.
No, it wasn't. I know West. You're talking about West. No, this is one whole last name, Westmoreland, not West.
Yeah.
Westmoreland, like one whole name together. Last name. That's what it says.
Okay. Well, maybe that's where I was thinking that I'd heard the name before.
And I think his name was Borland or something like that anyway. Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Now that could be a useful clue right there. Yeah, Steph came up with that.
Mm-hmm.
There were multiple people who passed in the ship from Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania. That could be a very, yeah. Yeah, people from all over the world on that ship. A lot of them were immigrants looking to make a new life in America.
Right.
They wanted to get out of Ireland and they wanted to get out of wherever they'd come from.
Is there anyone that you miss that's not with you? Can you tell me the name? Can anybody come through that wants to talk to anybody that's in our chat room? Anybody want to come through before we close out?
It's unusually quiet tonight. I wonder if that's due to a change in location.
You know how active it is in my place.
Yeah. Well, they're used to you being there.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure that they probably know where you're at and why, but yeah. But it is very active at your place.
Anybody else want to come through before we close up the spirit box?
I wonder if Lloyd is having special time with Reagan.
Oh, yeah, my bad. It's all right. You tried.
Lloyd, you keep 6 inches of daylight between you and that young girl. I don't think he'll have a problem with that. Something tells me no, he won't.
Yeah, there's no problems there.
Yeah. I don't think it's.
She's been put up anyway. So
has she been misbehaving?
Every time we go in there, she's in the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, she's got a mind of her own. I've I've seen enough to know that.
Yeah, I can't wait to start taking her on the tours this year so everybody can get a look at what she
Lloyd,
does. Nope.
yeah, Lloyd said, no, with like all capital letters, no. He's got no desire. That ain't happening. Love it.
Dad.
Every time I hear that word, I think of Summer Wells.
Dad.
I love hearing from her. Okay, how does Lloyd type an upside down exclamation mark? But he did, because all he said was "yay." So
I have no clue.
it's the mystery that is him. Mhm.
We'd like to thank everybody for coming through the spirit box for us tonight.
Uh,
We hear you, they said.
mm.
We love you.
Mm.
And we'll turn and put that down for the night. When I get back home, we'll run 2 spirit boxes.
Charlie said that sounded like Cameron. And Carla said, "We love you, Stephen."
Absolutely.
Told you love is the most it's the most powerful emotion out there by far. Well, we won't take much longer, but if you could talk to anybody from that ship, who would you want to talk to, Stace? And you don't have to have a name. You can just
Mm,
make it the ship's captain or the ship's designer, the ship's owner, or whoever. Who would you want to talk to? Or maybe just the third class passenger?
definitely Captain.
E.J. Smith, Edward John Smith. Yeah.
Captain Smith.
I would want to talk to Thomas Andrews, the guy who built it. Just to, to be honest with you, I really don't know. I just, every time I watch the film, the James Cameron film, I feel kind of connected to him. He was, I think he was a very smart. Let me get myself back up here. I think that he was a very smart person,
Yep.
and I think that he had a big heart. At least he was portrayed by the actor Victor.
Yeah. Victor Newman.
Who?
That's what you was going to say, Victor Newman.
No,
Because that was his name on the yeah.
I know
That
the
was
guy.
his name on the soap opera.
Oh, okay.
Young and the Restless.
Yeah. But I just thought that he was, and I don't know, there's so many different people I'd like to talk about, or I'd like to talk to, uh, that was on that ship. But I do, from the historical accounts, Lightoller had misunderstood Captain Smith and he went with women and children only.
Not
Whereas
first.
Murdoch said women and children first, and if there's enough room, then we're going to put anybody that we can in there, because Murdoch was all about just as many lives as we can save. And who can forget the scene when Thomas Andrews is talking to Lightoller and he says, look at that, 12 in a boat built for 64. And then you heard him say, well, he said, we weren't sure if they could hold the weight. And he said, bullshit. He said they were all tested with a weight of 70 men in Belfast. He said, now, for God's sakes, man, fill up these boats. And then Lightoller started doing it. He started, filling up the boat. I just think that it was so confusing and so hectic at that time.
Did you sit in one of those lifeboats?
No, I did not. I did get
I
up
did.
on the deck when it was at different angles.
I did. There was more than enough room. Just one person sitting on the bench. You could probably put at least 6 more people on a bench beside of you. On
You
just
could
one
have?
of the benches that's in it.
Yeah, and there was what, 6?
I sat in it.
6 rows of
I
seating, I think?
have pictures of it. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there was definitely more than enough room to save more people than were saved.
I brought myself to go over there and sit down in it for a few minutes,
And I forget, God help me, but I forget the name of the guy now. He was an officer on the Titanic, but he'd actually emptied his boat, transferred him into other boats, and he was the only one. I think there was one or two that went back after people in the water. They went back because everybody was scared that they'd be swamped and the boat would capsize and this and that and the other.
right?
And I think his words were, "I don't give a damn. We're going after them," and they went after them. But
Yeah.
at that time, there was only a few people pulled from the water that were still alive. And I think even one or two of those passed, they died as a result of it. But I mean, it was just absolutely horrific. It really was. My intention really wasn't to talk about, the Titanic because, yeah, number one, it's so long ago. But number two, I'm glad we did because we should never forget.
I was just talking about it earlier and yesterday. I was telling Noah all about it.
This time, yes, Noah needs to know. I think he
Yes, he
should know.
does. He
I
does
think,
now.
yeah. And maybe sit down with him and let him watch the film. You guys watch the film together, get some popcorn and some soft drinks and maybe some candy and let him see for himself.
I told him what they did to the third class, and he couldn't believe it. He was so sad. He said, "That breaks my heart."
Yeah, and
He's
it
5
was
years
over an
old, and
issue
he
of money or
understands.
a lack of, as they would call it back in the day, a lack of means. But I do love that scene specifically when Frances Fisher is talking to Leo DiCaprio, and he is at the first class table, and she says, "So tell me, how do you find the accommodations in steerage, Mr. Dawson?" He says, "Best I've seen, ma'am.
I
Hardly
hate
any rats." I love it. He did said he would give it right back to them just as hard as they give it to him. And my
She was
God,
awful.
but she's a wonderful actress and a wonderful
She
human being.
was. She
But
was
that just
wonderful.
shows you how good of an actress she is. When you
Right.
are looking at somebody that is a pretty good person, but yet they make you hate their character, you love to hate them, that's a hell of an actor. Just
Like
like Billy
Cersei on
Zane.
Game of Thrones.
Billy Zane is nothing like that in real life. He is
Mhm.
nothing like that. He is actually a very humble guy. He's just a down to earth guy. I loved him in Tombstone. He played Fabian in Tombstone, and
Yeah.
he was in Back to the Future. He was one of Biff's buddies.
He's been in a lot of stuff, really.
Oh, he's great. He's a great actor, but I mean, I
Wonderful.
really think that this guy has leading man chops. He could be leading man
Yeah.
easily, and
Yep.
and he's just a wonderful actor. And I could say the same thing about so many of the people that were in that film. People, I remember the press giving Kate Winslet such a hard time over her weight. And my God, she looked beautiful. She's always
She's
looked beautiful.
perfect.
She's gorgeous the way
Beautiful.
she is. I mean, she is
She
a
sure
wonderful
is.
being. And you can tell that her and Leonardo DiCaprio, their relationship reminds me a lot of us. They're super close. They love each other dearly. And there's nothing that one wouldn't do for the other. There's nothing that they wouldn't do for each other.
Mhm.
But it's just that thing. Now, Leo, he's a little quirky, but whatever. Hey, God bless him. Whatever. Because I mean, he took that role to a whole nother level. He did. And it made him.
Yep.
And then Bernard, what was it? Bernard Hill as Captain Smith.
Yeah, but he looked just like him.
Oh my God, he carried the weight of that movie in his eyes. You could see it in his eyes. Because I'm just thinking, wow,
Yeah.
all that responsibility. And when he finds out the ship's going to sink, just the look on his face. And when he turns around and he quips with his mate, he says, "Well, I think you may get your headlines." I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, that stung. But yeah, he's right, because that's all Ismay cared about.
Yep.
Headlines and money.
Yep.
And Smith, I think he was just a good guy put in a bad situation. Because if he had slowed down, he'd have caught hell. And he caught hell anyways. So, I mean, it's so anyways. So yeah, I think that the 22 Mine Road thing, I've got a working title on it, but I'm going to talk to you
Yeah.
guys and see what you all think too. And, I love the creative collaboration because I do not know everything about this. I'm learning stuff as we go, but I figure if we all put our heads together, we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Bill Paxton. Yes, he passed away. Charlie just said that he misses Bill Paxton. He was a good actor.
God, he was great in that.
God, he was Brock Lovett. Yeah. I love it when he looked at Rose. He said, So you were wearing the Hope Diamond the day the Titanic sank, and that makes you my new best friend. I love that.
Yeah, I remember
But
that.
I loved him as Morgan Earp too.
Yeah,
He was good in anything he played in. He was
he
great.
was.
Gosh,
He
Bill
played in
Paxton.
the Hatfields and McCoys too.
Yes, he did.
McCoy, Randall.
He played Randall McCoy, and
Yep.
didn't Kevin Costner play Devil Anse?
David Lance.
Yep. And I watched that. I wasn't about to miss that, and it
That
was
was a
just
good one.
great. You know, there were 2 things on the History Channel I wanted to watch, and that was one, and the other one was Harley and the Davidsons,
Yeah.
or whatever it was about how,
Yep.
you know, Arthur Davidson and William Harley got it all started, and that was to me kind of it was a little disappointing, but Hatfields and McCoys, that was not disappointing. That was good.
That was great.
Yeah, and I think Bill Paxton did a hell of a job. Yeah, he was
He
in
did.
Twister. He was great in Twister. He was great in just about anything I've ever seen the man
He
in.
really was. He was great.
But the ones that really stand out to me were Titanic and Tombstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I honestly believe without Kurt Russell, Tombstone just would not have happened. That thing was flying apart at the seams.
Yeah.
And, you know, Kurt Russell had a lot to do with making it work, and so did Val Kilmer. And here come Bill Paxton. And of course, who can forget Sam Elliott? My God, I love Sam Elliott. I could watch that guy in anything. He's just great. Loved him in
Me too.
Roadhouse. Next of Kin. Yeah, Next of Kin. Yes, he was in that. Charlie is just like a walking encyclopedia tonight. Thank you, Charlie. Yeah.
He knows all the good movies.
He watches, he got good taste. Charlie, you got
Yeah.
some good taste in movies. But yeah, I mean, he just I loved Bill Paxton too. And Gloria Stewart. I thought, you know, they had to age her about 10 years in the makeup department, because at the time she did Titanic, she was 80 some already, but they wanted to make her look, well, according to Louis Abernathy, who was his own character in the movie, he actually was a real guy, owns a bar in Texas. And he said, there's your first clue, an actress, Sherlock, an actress. That's your first clue. And that's when Brock says, you know, something, yeah, she's 101 next month. You know, she fits the bill to have been Rose DeWitt Bucator, not just Rose Dawson.
Yeah.
And at any rate, I was watching, like I said, the documentary last night, and they're talking to Lewis, and Cameron said, look, he said, I've tried to find somebody to play you, but you're going to have to play yourself in this. Lewis said, hey, look, if you want to fuck up your movie by casting me, go ahead and knock yourself out, pal. And he did. And I thought that he was an excellent supporting character to Brock Lovitz. But Lewis, he said, pretty cool, huh? And Rose, she said, that's a very unique forensic analysis. However, the experience of it was somewhat different. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And you knew you were going to be in for something.
Mm-hmm.
And Cameron did not disappoint. He did not disappoint. It was a fantastic film and a tragic story, but he made us go back to 1912 and see the beautiful ship.
Yeah.
And the glory of it, and the vainness of what arrogance and apathy can do. It cost over 1,500 people their lives. And we're not just talking about men. We're talking about men, women, children.
Babies.
Dogs. Well, the little boy that the Mackie Bennett recovered from the ocean, they discovered that he was like 15 months old. And do you know the crew of the Mackie Bennett received the reward money for recovering the body of J.J. Astor? His son had put up a reward. Now, I think so many thousands of dollars. I think it was like 10 or 15,000, whatever it was. Anyways, they took their own money and paid for a funeral service for that child, and they carried that child. They were pallbearers to that child's grave.
Beautiful.
And the whole damn town of Halifax showed up at a church for that child. And I would have too.
Me too.
Easily. I mean, that's a little innocent baby.
Yep.
I mean, what do you do? How do you there is no justification.
Beautiful. It's heartbreaking.
There is. So, anyways, normally I ask this at the beginning because I'm always interested. How are you feeling?
I'm a lot better. I'm down here actually. Been to the doctor a couple of times, so
good news.
I'm getting ready to. Everything's getting better. Doing good.
Good. I like to hear that. I'm down another 5 or 10 pounds, and
That's
Matter of fact,
good.
this evening I gotta take my happy arse over to the gym. So yeah, I'm trying to get these built back up a little bit. I'm just trying to feel better.
That's all I want to do.
Yeah, me too. And I want to make
I
sure
want
that
to feel
I don't get in
decent.
the shape that I got more chins than a Chinese phone book.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's all about how you feel after you get a certain
But
age,
look
you
at
know.
this right here. It's taken me 2 days to grow this. I told Dad once, I said, "Hell, I ain't got no hair on my chest." He said, "Son, grass don't grow on a playground." I said, "Okay." Yeah. I said, "Well, then," I said, "I don't know where the hell you're getting that from." I said, "Somebody's feeding you false information, bub." So but yeah, I do. And, I'm like so many everybody else in this chat room. And, I see it every time we're on the air. You know, Charlie misses Cameron. I get that. I
Yeah.
completely get that. Carla missing Steve and Angie missing her son. What I see is tragedy lined with hope. And I love you guys for that. I think you're awesome for that. Um, and so many, we miss people. There's not a day that goes by I don't miss my mom and dad. I don't, I miss Trev. I miss my Robin. I miss my grandma. I miss my granddad. Um, but I do find hope and a little bit of lightheartedness in comments like Angie made. Get enough liquor in Chris and he'll backstroke across the Atlantic Ocean like Papa. I love that. I thought,
That was a good one.
yeah, it's kind of true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the people that come together to work with us, I mean, Crystal takes time out of her day because she's got to work too. But she'll bring up her laptop and she'll sit right in there at that kitchen table and tap into the internet and goes to work, making these stories come to life for you guys or, doing the best that we can right now. And we're learning. Are they perfect? No, but I think we do a pretty good job of telling some of the stories. And I definitely, because I went back, of course, and watched the anthology because I just kind of threw it together on a whim. But from the first one to the fifth one, I can see a lot of improvement. From Charles to Reagan, there's a lot of improvement. And right now, as it stands, my favorite one is probably Reagan. I don't know about anybody else, but I really love the story of Reagan. I love how it was put together. And I love Stacy's sexy voice in it.
I like them all. I love all my babies.
This is the story of Reagan. You made me think of jalapenos when you did that. Yes.
Could make a little mean voice.
Yes, I like that. Tell me about Reagan, Lloyd. You know her better than anyone.
Yeah, let's let Lloyd tell it.
Oh, yeah. They'd be cussing every other breath. So that's exactly what that would come down to. But still, I mean, the people, we may be a pretty small clique at the moment. Yes, Carla said the cinematography in that movie, and I'm assuming she's talking about Titanic, was breathtaking. Oh my gosh, yeah. There was one scene in there.
Not Charlie.
Good night, buddy. We love you bunches.
Yeah.
There was one scene in Titanic though that was $1 million shot, and that's the one where Jack and Fabrizio are on the front of the ship, and he's I'm the king of the world thing. Cameron said by the time he said you could probably do it for a tenth of that now. He said, but you got to think, he said, we were doing this in 1996. It came out in December of 97. He said, but that shot cost about $1 million by the time they were done with the composite videos and all this other stuff. But that scene was, oh my gosh, because you saw the Titanic in all of her glory. You saw her full. And all the people walking around and the little seagulls and the birds flying around and,
Right.
The smoke coming out of the, and it was just, I mean, when I bought it, I've got it on Blu-ray, and then I bought it digital download in 4K, and let me tell you, it was worth every nickel. I'm glad to say I have it, and I can watch it. Matter of fact, probably after we get off here tonight, which is going to be in just a few minutes, I'm probably going to go watch it. But I'm out of lemonade, so I'm not happy right now. Got to get some more tomorrow, I guess. I do have tea, so I'm good there. Jalapeno on a steak. Yes, on a steak. I slammed my steak in the door. Jeff Dunham. We love him. But guys, we do, and we love you so much. And I want to give a big shout out to Kayla. Thank you so much for the donation, baby. I love you bunches, Kayla.
Yes, thank you, honey.
She is she's just awesome. She's incredible.
She is. She's beautiful.
And I hope that we always deliver something on Thursday nights, given the few exceptions that we can't be on for whatever reason. But I think that we've done pretty good about being on. Stace is out of town, but here she is on her phone. We're both we're pretty dedicated to this.
I had to see my family tonight. I
Well,
had to spend some time with y'all.
It is an every Thursday night thing. Now, do you think that you'll be home next week, baby?
Yeah, I'll be home probably tomorrow.
Okay, great. Great. Well, let me know when to come over for pot roast.
Yeah, I just got to go run to the store.
God, that sounds so good. Pot roast, carrots and carrots. But guys, with that, remember, these bodies may fade, but your soul doesn't. And the love never goes away. It's always there. And it will be with you for a lifetime. It will be with us no matter what. So, and that's what I hold on to. Because I know that there's going to come a day when I see my mom and dad again. And I see Trev, I see Ollie, I see my grandfather, see my grandma, and I see my Robin. I can't wait to wrap my arms around her. And there's going to be days again when I'll see April again. And I really look forward to that. Yeah. Guys, we love you so much.
Love you guys.
And please have a wonderful weekend. Do something. I'm going to give everybody the same advice that Chelsea gives me about every day. Do something for yourself. Even if it's sitting alone with a cup of coffee for a few minutes and just breathing and just being thankful. That comes back for you in good ways. Her mom taught me a lot, but so did she. So is she.
She's taught me so much, yeah.
Oh, she's awesome.
Love her.
Chelsea's awesome. And I can't wait to see her again. And my little Sophie.
Me too.
I love Sophie Bug. She is just so sweet and so cool. She's very much like Lloyd, though. She wants nothing to do with the doll. Nothing to do with the dolls.
Can't blame her.
But Chelsea's wanting to get in there and just root hog.
Oh, she's going to.
Oh, God, she's going to love it. But she's got you with her, and you can guide her and keep her safe.
Oh, yeah, always.
That's what that you are exactly what keeps me from saying, oh, hell no. I know that you know what you're doing, and I have complete faith in God and you. So I'm fine with that. So, but everybody in the chat, thanks so much for being here. We love you a bunch. And yes, have a great weekend. Do something for yourself. And good Lord willing, we will see you here next Thursday night at 9:00. Stace, I love you bunches.
Love you.
And for your super hottie little sister, or for your super hottie sister, tell her she's gorgeous and that I'm thinking about her. And I hope everything's going really well for Kimmy.
Will do.
Okay, I love you, baby.
Love you. Love everybody.
Good night. May God bless you all. Have a good night. Thank you.